I feel like I need to check
Sara,
a few
how is your
things.
internet?
Okay, hi everyone. We are going live.
Hi, Saskia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. I think we
Okay.
are already live.
Yes,
So
we are live.
everybody already watching. We will start in a few minutes, or 7 minutes.
Okay, Saskia, so I think we are live now, and I believe we might have some number of audience as well who are watching us, so we can start. And I think let's start about what topic we have chosen today for this panel discussion, and what is the background that we have for that, why we choose. I think we are live now, and
Sorry, I think there was an echo for a second. But yes, let's get right into it. Firstly, hi to everybody watching. I'm Saskia. I'm currently based in Amsterdam, but I grew up in Estonia and debated there a lot. That's why I'm also involved in this event. And today we'll be covering mainly the topic of technological challenges in the transition to an online education system. We're going to be talking about both high school and university education here, and also covering topics of accessibility to online learning environments, and here also tapping into the topic of debating that I think everybody in this community feels quite passionately about. And then lastly, talking about what is there to be done to make sure that everybody feels comfortable with the transition, not only from a technological aspect, but also when we're talking about mental health and well-being in this current time.
exactly. So this is Rahil. I'll be moderating from Pakistan, and we have a very diversified panel. I think this is the first time that we are connecting two different regions, the debaters of two different regions from Pakistan and with the debaters in Estonia. We also have two different moderators for both of the panel discussion. And as Saskia has told you about that, the background of this panel discussion is about the change that we have bring into our normal life, normal communication that we are having, especially in our education sector. So today we have panelists specifically who have the communication and debating background, but they are also students and they are also faculty members in different educational institutes. So I think, Saskia, we can start introducing our panelists now.
Yes, should we wait for them to get here or go ahead now?
Yeah, I think we have the technical hand from the back who is bringing in our guest online. So if we can have first the panelists from Estonia on stage, so that we can introduce them.
Yes. I'm going to go ahead and start with introductions. Let's hope they will be joining now. So first, from representing the educator side from Estonia, we have my personal teacher and an amazing lady who got me into debating, Piret Bosak. And she is a teacher and debating coach at Tallinn English College. And she has been dealing with debating since 2011. And regarding educational side, she's also teaching in many different schools and also led different youth initiatives to make sure that more young teachers get involved in the learning environment. Secondly, we have Abhishek Shaluya from the Tallinn University of Technology. He is originally from Delhi, India, and it is bachelor's in journalism and media for working as a copywriter. He discovered Estonia's study abroad destination while writing articles. And now we are very lucky to have him not only in Estonia, but also in the Estonian debating community, also during the online times. And I think that Abhishek is also now fighting against finishing the thesis. So good luck with that. Happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And lastly, we have from Estonia representing the high school student, Don Rico Saluver, talented young debater from the Tallinn school, the Tallinn 21st school. And he has not been in debating for that long, but already is passionate about it and is representing us here, not only from the school side, but also about his interest in programming and music composition. And we can see how that affects his views on what university education expectations are for high school students now, and what is it like to be a high school student during online times.
All right, great. Thank you, Saskia. Thank you so much for all the panelists for joining in, and we hope that we have a very good discussion today. Now, let me introduce the panelists from the Pakistani side we have. So, the first panelist that we have is a faculty member. She's a teacher. She's teaching at Generation School, Karachi. Currently, she's teaching English literature as well. And the reason that we have selected her for this panel is because her vast experience in communications itself. She was a national award winning debater here in Pakistan, debated for almost 10 years during her student life. And now she's teaching communication, English literature, and debates, public speaking as well. We have Mrs. Maria Alim with us from the teacher side. Welcome, Maria, and thank you so much for your time today. Moving on, we have from the university background, we have a university level debater, Hafsa Tahir. Hafsa is currently studying her master's in psychology at University of Karachi, and she's also a very seasoned debater here in Pakistan, being participating in all the formats of different debating competitions here. She's also running her own social media platforms for the mental health awareness and teaching people how mental health is important for their daily life routines. So Hafsa, welcome, and thank you so much for coming on board. Next we have is Sara Saeed. Sara is currently a high school student. She is a student at Highbrow College, and Sara is also having a very vast debating background during her school life and at college as well. She has won. She was in the winning victory stand last year on a national TV debate contest as well. So, Sara, thank you so much for joining in and welcome aboard. All right, Saskia, over to you. I think you can start first a brief discussion and then questions to your panelists.
Yes. So first off, we will be starting with identifying the technical challenges that have been in the transition to online learning. I know from my own personal problems, at least, that it's something that I'm definitely still getting used to. Especially with focus and making sure that there is attention to what I'm doing. So firstly, I would ask Rico, what do you feel like is more difficult, and what has been the biggest change for you in how you interact with learning?
Okay, well, I would say that definitely the question of focusing is one of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest changes that has happened. When you're sitting in school physically, like it used to be, you don't really have much of a choice to focus on other things besides learning. Mostly because we also have rules set in place. You're not allowed to use your mobile phone. You're not allowed to do, for example, talk with your partner who's sitting next to you. But when we are learning online, these rules cannot be enforced. And even though some teachers ask us to turn on our cameras, for example, to see that we are not doing other things and we are not distracting ourselves, it doesn't actually help enforce anything since you can still open multiple tabs on your screen and so on and so on. So the only person who can really keep ourselves in check, or keep me in check, is me myself. And so it has definitely been a change from a system where focus is enforced on you to a system where you have to learn to keep yourself focused all by yourself. And I'd say that learning how to keep myself focused without external pressure to do so has been definitely one of the biggest challenges, but at the same time, one of the best learning experiences as well.
Okay, sounds like even if we have distance apart, we might having similar kind of challenges and problem and solution as well. So moving on to Sara, similar question that we have just asked one of the panelists in Estonia. What kind of challenges that as a student you have faced when Corona hit and the whole education system has been transferred from the conventional way of teaching to the online education system? Considering the situation in Pakistan, where we have different challenges in terms of accessibility and resources and internet as well. So can you just briefly give us an overview of that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Rico. He was right about the, accountability part. The only person who can hold me accountable as per my attention in my online class is myself, because the teacher has really no way of knowing if I'm actually, paying attention in class. Apart from that, in particular about Pakistan is that the major issue in Pakistan is the reliability of internet connections. Even before this stream, my internet connection was, kind of acting up, and sometimes it happens during class that the internet connection just stops working and your lecture gets disrupted. So this is something that we as a country need to work on. Secondly, as privileged people, we tend to forget that coming from a third world country perspective, I am, alhamdulillah, lucky enough to have access to gadgets and stuff. But people who go to public colleges and public schools, and they before the pandemic, they were having an access to free education. But not everyone can afford a laptop or a smartphone, right? So people in the underprivileged areas, the underprivileged people who cannot afford a laptop or a smartphone, essentially, they have been cut off from the system of education. There were already so many people, so many students out of students have been affected by this switch to online education.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that despite the different backgrounds of the two countries that we're talking about here, this is something that, despite Estonia investing millions into the digital revolution since the beginning of this millennia, is still a problem for us as well. So, Abhishek, when I'm asking from you, do you still see this kind of an accessibility problem next to the challenges of adapting to online learning on the university level as well in Estonia? Is this something that's visible here as well?
I don't see it as an accessibility problem. Of course, when you're transferring to an online medium for everything, the communication breakdown happens at other levels. In fact, so in Estonia has not been an accessibility problem, but the communication fact Rico talked about, because the classroom setting is more conducive to learning, and not only for the students, but how the teachers present themselves and how they get their messages across. Because I have an idea that teaching in its essence is also a performance art. You're in front of the audience and you're trying to capture their attention and trying to get your message across, right? And in certain ways, because of this transfer to the online medium, that performance has lost out a little. So even the really good teachers are not able to translate it as well when it comes to online. Yeah. So, and about the accessibility thing that Sara talked about, I do believe it's a challenge in the third world at present. But moving on, if you see online education itself, it could open up more areas which are where schools are not opened up and where people cannot afford expensive tuition. To online could actually somewhere down the line, but of course at the moment it is when you suddenly shift to online.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think having a connection with Abhishek, having a connection with two different countries, he can also relate to what problems that Sara has discussed very easily. Hafsa, you are currently studying at the university level, and you are currently studying in a public university. So I know that there were some accessibility options and resources provided by the government we have here in Pakistan and by the university themselves. But as a student, what do you see that whether those options that has been provided or funded by any authorities or any government or university, were that enough to cater the overall problem, the challenges that we have during the online education system, and also beside like with the education, uh, was it any other challenges beside the education? We have different activities going on, like you studying a psychology. You must be having different other activities going on for research for the purpose. How did you cope up with that? Hafsa, if you are here. I think we are having some, as we discussed, the internet issues at Hafsa's end. Hafsa, can you hear me? Hi,
I can
Hafsa,
hear
did you
you.
get
Can
my
you hear
question?
me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. Can you get my question?
No, I didn't. I couldn't get your question. Could you repeat it?
Yeah, the question was if that as you were studying in a state university, University of Karachi, so I know that they have provided different accessibility option resources funded by the government or by the university to their students. But even though as a student of psychology or other practical form of studies, uh, beside education, you also have to conduct different other activities as well as research, going on with meeting people and all that to collect some more information, more knowledge. How did you cope up with those and the education itself during this COVID era?
Yeah. So initially, it was pretty difficult to cope up with something like this because it was a surprise, right? But again, as psychology students, we were expected to deal with it the best because I think the biggest problem that we faced as students, as Pakistani students, was related to the generational gap that we have with the teachers, right? So the see, so we that are especially aged, they do not, and so we discussed our problems with them. The teachers were not as supportive as we were expecting them to be. Secondly, being psychology student, we were that because we are mental health advocates and because we are supposed to be the symbol of well-being and of a healthy mind, we were supposed to be the one who was
We are having some connection issues at Hafsa's end. So, Saskia, over to you for the next panelist.
Yes. Well, I think I got most of what Hafsa was saying as well about the
Yeah.
challenges that come with the generational gap and in digital literacy. And I think that reflecting on that, Estonia has been doing pretty good with developing those programs. But I think that as Abhishek also points out, there's still like this sort of a problem in the transition to the tech world and with teachers' engagement with it. So, Berit, I would like to ask from you, like, what teachers can do during this pandemic, and like, are you being blamed too much right now for struggling to keep students focused right now? Who does the burden lie on here?
Yeah, I would say that Abhishek is right in that it is difficult for even good teachers to keep the attention of students online. I mean, this is something that I've also struggled with sometimes, just kind of converting what I do day to day onto an online format. And it's not just about understanding technology and being able to present it online and using the different technological programs and other such things that are given to us. I mean, our school, at least we have an IT person who is always available to us, support person who introduces new programs to us. But this is not something that we struggle most. I think the biggest struggle really is to how to put education online in a way that it becomes engaging again and it is understandable, accessible to everybody. We have startups because Estonia is famous for its startup culture. So we have education startups, quite a few of them, that are trying to transfer education online as well. I personally see that the biggest benefit from this crisis is to learn somehow to have a hybrid education. Some of it is online, and I still see the value of some contact classes as well. But I'm part of one of these organizations trying to figure out a way to put education online. And yes, it's a learning curve. It's a very steep learning curve we have.
So just to follow up on that, based on also what Hafsa just said before about the mental health risk that might come up, how much do you see that as a teacher in the classroom, and how much attention are you in your work with those startups putting emphasis on understanding what are the impacts of online learning on students in that sense as well?
I don't think that they have been connected so well so far, because as I see how this educational program, how it is being transformed online into online education, that doesn't really have any connection to the mental health issues as such. As a teacher, of course, I see that there are problems with mental health. I also teach American literature, and we create poems in class sometimes, and the themes that come out of those poems this year have been much more negative, much darker than in previous years. And so of course I see that even if the students aren't expressing themselves directly about the concerns they have about the education, the thoughts that they have aren't as bright as they used to be.
All right. So let's see.
Very good perspective coming in from a teacher herself. That how, yeah. So let's move on to a faculty member from this side of the world. Maria, if you are still with us.
Yes, I am. I can hear you.
Maria with us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Maria is here. So Maria, as Spirit has discussed about how she saw these problems and cope up as a teacher from that. Similar questions, but with the perspective of what we have here in Pakistan. Being a teacher, you have now 2-3 different challenges. One, you have to conduct your classes online. That is not normal here in Pakistan before that. Secondly, you have to keep track of your student records through technological gadgets, through technological platforms. That is another challenge. Thirdly, you also have to make sure that your students are getting all the information that you are providing to them. So things change for teachers altogether. How did you cope up with that? And how was the challenge of coping up with the technology as a teacher?
All right, thank you. Initially, see, Rahil, the thing was that we were technology was the part of our planning. As I'm teaching in a school for super privileged students, so that was the part of it. We used to have the technology as some percentage of our lesson plan in everyday lessons. But now that this pandemic hit, and then we were like for a few months we were just taken aback. We didn't know what to do. So that we just let the school decide for us, and then the school came up with the solutions, and then they provided us the access to the different apps, and they bought the access to the purchased the access to those apps, and then they taught us the way to use it. Of course, we were technology friendly because we, as I told you, we kept a percentage of the technology in the part of our lesson plan. Like normally, regularly, but now this was 100%. The content didn't change, of course. The topics, the lesson that we had to teach students, that remained the same. But with that, the challenge was to make it as engaging for the students as it is on campus with them physically in the class and discussing it. And that's a different thing, of course. You cannot keep a check on the students if they are listening, if they are even present or not. When I talk about Pakistan, we have a different mindset here. Especially our students, our kids are mostly dependent on their parents. So the parents kind of also had a different mindset. The students, kind of enjoyed it of a unique kind of a holiday, an extended one. They were not willing to learn, to study. They were not even ready to study in the first few months. And then later on, when they found out, okay, that's not going to end like this, and they have to now, take it up seriously. Then slowly, gradually, still we have a lot of percentage of the parents who are not taking it seriously, the online education, and they come up with the complaints that it's not that effective. And that's what we tell them, that the content and the things and the teachers are the same. It's just that initially, we were thinking about the different teaching strategies. That was the flipped classroom, giving the authority to the students in the physical classrooms. But then when it changed to the completely, to the technology-based classroom, so we had to come up with the different strategies, and that involved the students. We couldn't, make keep a, cannot penalize the students because the calamity kind of hit almost every family, and we had to keep that empathic. We had to be empathetic with the students to understand that okay, fine, they must have some problem going on in the family, so we couldn't be that strict in this process.
One, one quick follow-up question regarding that. How
Yeah.
did you cope up with the challenge of maintaining the attention and keeping them focused on your studies? Because we have seen it multiple times during this whole pandemic thing. Students lose focus, they lose attention because teachers are not physically present in front of them. So, what was the difference between? What was the challenge altogether between these visual communication and virtual communication regarding the focus and the attention of the students?
Uh, all right. So initially we were talking and the students were listening, and it was a kind of a conventional way of giving lecture, and the students were taking notes and all that. But now we tried doing giving the kind of PowerPoint presentation or kind of a game, introducing the topic online, and giving them the responsibility to come up with the learning of that topic. So no matter if they're learning it from the lesson that I have prepared for them, or they're just googling it and coming up with the concepts. But at the end of the day, I would just find out, okay, fine, they are clear about that topic. That's what I tried.
Okay, thank you. Saskia, over to you.
Yes, we have meanwhile gotten a question from Facebook from Margalar. And I would like to address that question to Rico to ask about the different methods of learning, because obviously there's different methods of learning, exactly as was just explained as well, that teachers have used, and there are like hybrid methods being built up, as Berit mentioned before as well. So what is it, do you think, the lowest level of technology that can be used to still get a meaningful learning experience in which you are still able to engage with the material meaningfully, but that wouldn't create that many accessibility issues in a case of both from teacher side and also from student side, who possibly all don't have good computers at home for all of the family members who are going to school? So what material can you engage with meaningfully that isn't that advanced?
Okay, well, I don't know if there are any particular devices that could be used in the ways necessary other than a computer or a mobile phone, but it is definitely the case that your phone or your computer does not have to be as good as perhaps some people think, because even though it is nice to have everyone on video and have a nice internet connection with all the students having their cameras switched on and emulating a real classroom, I think that is not a necessity. And if our goal is to give the best education possible to to as many people as possible, I think that should not be a necessity. And I think that even the, okay, not to say the worst, but the most easily accessible, perhaps mobile phones and computers can still be used to communicate through text. And I think that the lowest form of technology perhaps that could still be used is any way that the teachers can give assignments to the students based on probably most students still have their textbooks and workbooks at home. I know we all the students in Estonia do have our textbooks and workbooks at home. So any way that the teachers can give assignments to the students that the students can then complete even on their own, and then maybe give some feedback. I think any form of text communication is actually already enough to assist and guide the students through their education path.
So despite your issues with focus, you would still be fine with that kind of as well, and think you could get a good education out of it?
Well, I think that the focus issues only were present at first, for me at least. But definitely, it's not an ideal form, but it's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm. Right. Should we get a different perspective on it?
So yeah. So moving on to the a different perspective, kind of with education. But Sara, when we are going to college or university for education, So the purpose overall is not only to get the education. You are also during this time of spending your time in college, you're also spending your time with friends. You're also meeting new people. You're also learning with other than the educational framework or the educational medium that you have. You're also participating in other extracurricular activities as well, like debates, like public speaking, like sports. So during this time of the COVID, what was happening with that part of your life? Was you completely disconnected with your friends and not participating in other activities other than the education of online classes and other than that? Or are you doing it somehow by some other means or some other ways? How did you cope up with that?
Okay, so in this regard, it was pretty difficult in the beginning because debates, online debates, etc., didn't start in the first few months of COVID. As a person who is very active, usually under normal circumstances in extracurriculars, it was very hard for me just to adapt to a life which did not have any extracurricular activities or sports or debates and everything. But eventually, we shifted all of that online too, and I've been pretty contented with online debates and stuff. But still, they do not have the they do not have the standard of a physical debate, and you can't really compensate sports in any other form. But still, we are seeing that we are also shifting to a hybrid mode of education. So sometimes I can go to college, for example, like 2-3 times a week, so I can indulge in those activities. Let's just hope the situation doesn't get any worse with the pandemic, and we continue this hybrid, and eventually we can transition to a normal school life.
Saskia, I wish to have this conversation take to your panel as well. That we have discussed this about that how Estonian government have spent and funded the activities in Estonia for technological shift way before the pandemic hits the world. So, was that actually useful, or like they did fund it to make a technology shift, but were people used to of getting education and getting participating in different activities other than the human touch? So Saskia, what like it's up to you to whom in your panelists you can forward this question to, but I really wish to know from your panelists as well.
Yes. I think that it's a very interesting topic to discuss, and I think that Barrett would have good opinions on it, as I think that you are most involved in it currently. So I think that there is an immense benefit that we get from being used to digital solutions and having being created PowerPoints from the primary school onwards. So how would you say, Barrett, that it has affected the Estonian government approach on pushing this kind of digital steps forward, and how we have been dealing with the pandemic in the educational sector? If I can get Barrett to the room.
Hello. Yeah, so it has been really good that what our government has done so far, and of course the ability for schools to lend out laptops, and during this time this has also been really, really good, because not every family has a laptop or 2 or 3, depending on how many kids they have who need to be in class at the same time. So definitely these different programs that the government has organized and different non-governmental organizations have organized previously have built up this sort of background for us to enable to help these families. But I would like to come back, if it's okay, to the question that was actually given to the student in Pakistan regarding the impact on what we have, not being able to see students face to face, or having, I would maybe look at it from the teacher's point of view. And I think it's been very, very difficult, that aspect. Yes, I can pass on the information, I can teach, I can actually cope with that aspect of it. But it's not just, school is not just knowledge. It is a lot about relationships. It is a lot about getting to know also your students, and providing them with extracurricular activities, such as the debate club, of course, which yes, it's possible to do that online, but the problem with that is that you can only put so much of your life online, and it's very difficult to maybe ask a student who has spent 7 or 8 hours watching a screen to spend another 2 hours in a debate club watching another screen. So this has been another challenge that we've had. And also as a teacher, I've noticed that the difficulty is getting to know my students. In class, if you see a person face to face, you also see them interact with each other. You see them outside during the extracurricular activities, but it comes into play very much in the secondary school when they are applying to go to universities and they need letters of recommendation from their teachers. I've just been approached by somebody who wants to go and study somewhere else and needs a non-academic reference, something that they have done outside of classes in extracurricular activities. And this is quite a challenge for me. So yeah, this it's not the technology, it's not it's not coming up with programs, but it is the people and the connection to people that is probably the hardest aspect of all of this pandemic. Back to you, Saskia.
Yes. I would also want to ask the educators side from Pakistan to comment on this, because I also recognize this is a very important issue, and I myself feel very lacking in it, because I do think that but I'm not always the brightest student in the classroom. I'm still liked by my teachers at least, and I do get some input from that. And I think that this kind of engagement is very lacking for me as well. Is this a similar problem there?
Oh yes, it was. Indeed, it was. We missed right now when we have requested we've just started a strategy in Pakistan that we allow half of the class 1 week and then allow the rest of the class the other week. Now we finally came to know about the students and we started knowing them by faces. Otherwise we were the names of the students and their faces and their habits and their background was all on our fingertips. But this year, unfortunately, we also felt that we couldn't make that a strong connection with our students, no matter how much we tried to match their names with their profile pictures. But it was very difficult to recognize the students and to build that relationship with them. But now when they are here on the campus, now we have been teaching them on campus, half of them, of course, not all of them. So they all connecting that that connection, they are also missing, and so are we missing it.
Yes. So that problem seems to be very symmetric in this. We have meanwhile gotten a question about hybrid teaching. So I think to round that up, this topic before we move forward, I would also like to ask that question to, I think to Berit again, because the question is whether teachers might be overburdened by the new tasks of working with the hybrid solutions, and in the context of overall stress and diminishing engagement with students, do you think the teachers might get burned out and quit? Maria, if you also want to answer to that now, that's also good. Is there anything that could be done to protect teachers from this?
Is this question from me, Saskia?
Yes, you can answer.
All right. I think so. It's not more about burdening the teacher. It's more that the changing your ways of teaching and building relationships and communication with the students. So I personally think that it's not the additional burden. It's just changing the way altogether, something that never happened in the history of the human life probably, and now that's happening, and we have to be prepared for that in a very short period of time, because we don't want our students to lag behind. We really don't want us to fail as a nation, in the field of education. Definitely that's the most important thing for the students, for the new generation, for every generation actually. So it's actually this problem with the teachers probably, that we have to change our ways of teaching in a very short period of time, and altogether completely changing the ways of teaching.
Well, here I quite agree with everything you said. That this is it is quite difficult, but we are coping with it as best as we can. But of course, there is some danger of temporary burnout, maybe because we have to cope with these new means of dealing with and communicating and teaching. So we have to learn a lot, which in a short term is okay if the pressure is higher, and but it's not sustainable. It's not a good long-term solution. Fortunately, our Minister of Education has just about an hour ago come up with a solution, a temporary stopgap solution as well, to help teachers in this by announcing that the government will pay for help, like substitute teachers, also university students, to go out and help actually schools and to protect teachers from burnout, or teachers who are sick and their classes don't have anybody to cover those, that actually university students can go and help out as a temporary measure. So I think that's pretty good. But of course, we do have to learn, especially in this. I don't think that this hybrid situation is going to go away. We have been asked by our school, for example, if we would consider hybrid learning from the autumn onwards, even without any specific need for it. And we do see some benefits of it. And like Rico mentioned, there are students' own self-motivation and learning to study by themselves. And depending on the age group of the student, this could be quite beneficial. So we're looking at developing these programs that would actually be good both for the teachers and for the students, and reduce both of our workloads, but also keep our motivation up. But in the meantime, in the short term, all of this is taking a lot of energy.
Well, thank you, Pirit, of all this beautiful insight, and somehow similar insights we have from Maria and from Pirit as well. From the Pirit last response, I get this very interesting question I have in mind from Hafsa and Abhishek both. When Pirit talk about that having it's tough to have a student online for 7 to 8 hours. Hafsa and Abhishek both, maybe Hafsa first. When you are online, you have all the access to other mediums as well, other than your online class. When you are in a classroom, you have to focus on your teacher only. So how, as a student, you cope up to maintain your focus on your online class, having those lectures, not to move and switch to Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or YouTube, something else, or maybe when you start Googling something, you landed on some other page and you just deviate from there. How was that challenge, and how did you cope up with that, Hafsa?
First of all, should I go first, Abhishek? Do you mind? So first of all, it was very hard, especially for me as a person who loves memes. And there's memes about every situation. We as students, that's basically our coping mechanism. They're everywhere, and we have all these options available. It's very difficult. So I think this pandemic has taught us, the whole world, the education system, is that finally we need to understand that we need to know more things than just mitochondria being the powerhouse of the cell, right? I think this is high time that education system has realized that we need to teach students from a very young age things like stress management, time management, things like self-motivation, the most important things like how to improve your self-efficacy and how to be self-reliant. Had we been taught those things as children, as young people in university, we wouldn't really be facing so much problems, right? So yeah, it was pretty tough. But what I did as a student was that I tried to focus more on the PowerPoint bullets, and I used to listen to a few words what the teacher said, and then I used to give my input. The thing that helped me a lot was participating in the class, right? So I made sure to stay in touch with the teacher, participate as much as I can, ask as much questions as I could. And so yeah, that proved to be very helpful. Over to Abhishek.
Yeah, I suppose at the stage of studies that I am in, when you're doing masters or higher education, you're pursuing higher education, self motivation is the basic thing that you require to actually motivate yourself and get into the studies. So it's distractions and gadgets themselves are not much of a problem, especially when you have classrooms here where you can actually have your laptop open or your phone even in a classroom setting. So it's not such different thing. You know, for someone who's pursuing a master's degree where you have to, motivate yourself to study, and for those who are younger, who are growing up with, watching streams 7 8 hours a day, and with aspirations to become a TikToker, where everyone is growing up with screens all around them. I don't think it's absorbing content is a problem, but distractions will always be there for for the younger generation. That is their world where they have so many things to. I never had a phone when I was studying in school, or but these students nowadays, they are already have these gadgets. So distractions is something that they would have to deal with even in a normal classroom setting. Obviously, it's a lot more distracting when you're a school student sitting at home and you have to motivate yourself, because let's admit, no one in school actually wants to study. They think they have been imposed with these things. So that's where something that Maria mentioned about parents having to play a larger role for school students to help them motivate and get them to study is important, because that authority figure in a classroom becomes more important at the school level, where you need someone to tell you that you need to do this.
Also, I think at university level, we have such tough courses and so many things to do on our to do lists that eventually, with tears or with happiness, we have to cover it. We have to let go of all those pleasures.
Okay,
Over to
thank
you,
you so
Raheel.
much. I think, yeah, thank you so much. Somehow a different perspective, but I think both perspective are very valid, because as Abhishek has related to somebody who is motivated enough to get their education on master's level, and also there are students who are being able to having a challenge to move away from the deviation or diversion from the gadgets and social media. So Saskia, over to you.
Yes. On to the high school students again as well. I would also like to ask Rico about this, and about the ways that that online life can still be fun and enjoyable. Because I think that in debating as well, the Estonian Debating Society has still been lucky enough to organize quite a few real life tournaments or events this year. But I think the major ones were still happening online. So do you think that this is still something that's keeping the interest up next to school and keeping that balance kind of there?
Yes, actually, the two competitions that I have taken part of were both online, and I have actually never been able to take part of an physical debate competition due to the circumstances, and because I haven't been doing this as a hobby for that long. But definitely, online life can still be social. I myself, for example, have gotten much more used to texting and using that as a form of communication, and actually having conversations through text instead of just arranging meetings or using it minimally. And online life can definitely still be fun, especially if you do things like play video games with your friends and debating as well. We, for example, when we were preparing for the online competitions with my team, we thought it to be smarter to not meet up either. So we did it all online. We had calls, and instead of meeting up at the cafeteria every evening, we had a Zoom call every evening with our team. And it is definitely a form of social life, but I would say that it is not the same. And having that physical interpersonal connection is still different and better, and something that I think me and my peers are all yearning for, I would say.
Yes, just to follow up on this, when you're thinking of going on to studying in university, and I think that in Estonia, there's something that's very intimately linked to university culture is also the fun part and walking over bridges. It sounds way less cool than it is, but over the arches of the bridges and all that kind of stuff that is very fun to do. That's been kind of taken away now as well. And next to what you are losing in educational quality because of whatever study issues, do you think that you have different expectations now for what university situations would be when you're looking abroad, or do you think that in some ways universities should compensate this kind of losing a fun element?
Well, I do hope that by the time I get to university, this crisis will be solved. Hopefully, it won't still be going. If it will, I think there will be bigger problems even than that. But I don't know if it's the university's job to compensate for the loss of fun, since they expecting to have fun in a university is not what they sell to you. They are giving you an education, and the fun is something that you can arrange for yourself, and that's everyone's own problem. As far as being stripped of an opportunity to have fun goes, I think that for me personally, I am actually having more fun like this in this setting than I did in the physical school setting, simply because I am someone who mainly enjoys spending time on my own personal interests and hobbies, and I can still meet up with one or two people that I like to meet up with. I do not have some huge social circle that I now cannot meet up with. So for me personally, what this online education has given me is more time to focus on the things that really interest me, because as opposed to an university education, when being in high school in the Estonian school system, I still have to study many things that I am not interested in, and that I do not feel that will really help me forward in life. So thanks to the fact that I now do not have to sit in these classes actually for the whole 45 minutes, but can I can choose to ignore some exercises that are not really productive for me, and can spend that time learning things that really interest me. This has actually made me more happier and motivated overall. So in some ways, this shift to online learning has had an opposite effect on me than for many of my peers and for many people.
I'm very happy to hear that. Rahel, would you like to take that question to your panel as well?
Yeah, sure. I think Sara will be the most relevant person for that. How debating changed during this whole pandemic? How do you expect in the coming days that if we have more online debate competition, or we can, like we had some physical events as well, what events are more learning for you or more challenging for you, the online one or the physical debating competition one? How did you cope up with the audience interaction as well in the online, and the difference between the online and the physical debate competitions? Sara? Do we have Sara with us?
Hello, am I
Oh, yeah,
audible?
she's there. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I was saying it's more of an opinion, but I personally enjoy the thrill of being on a stage and having an audience right in front of me so I can make eye contact, right? So even though online debates are a good replacement, I mean, it's better than nothing, but it doesn't give you the thrill of being on a stage. So, and even talking about a social life, as Rico said, uh, it's you can do a lot of things online with your friends. There are things like Netflix party, you can watch movies with your friends, you can watch games with your friends, but the physical contact, you can't hug your friends, you can't express physical affection, and that is something that we all need in times such as these. We are all so mentally, drained out. We need to express physical affection, and that's not really possible. So even though we are doing all that is possible, it's not in any way comparable to the normal circumstances.
Just a follow-up question, and with a brief background that we had last year, like last year, pandemic hits this region of the world, Pakistan, in March, when we have already planned our World Speech Day event, 15th March of last year, but we have to cancel it in the last moment. And in 3-4 days period of time, we planned a totally different activity altogether, 4 hours live marathon on StreamYard and Facebook and YouTube. And during that 4 hour event, we have 15,000 plus viewers from Pakistan and all over the world as well. So it was experiment, but it was successful. So do you think that even if hopefully very soon pandemic gets over, this new way of practicing debates and other activities will get becomes normal in our life, or as you said, we will still miss that human contact, that physical contact, that thrill of being stage, and we will go back there where we have been there conventionally 2 years back.
Yeah, I think we will incorporate some of the online mediums in our normal lives too, because as right now we are talking to people from Estonia. That is one of the advantages of
Yeah.
online debating and stuff. You can't really do that physically, otherwise we'd have to travel a long distance. So this is something that online debates have enabled us to do. I really think that when we go back to normal circumstances, these online things that we have adapted to, they are really going to help us in the long term.
Okay, hopefully, because just a piece of information, I get to know that might be we are having some international debate events as well going online, and most of the students and participants who are they are not able to participate in these international competitions just because they can't bear the cost of traveling to those part of the world. Now they can do that. Saskia.
I would ask this question to Abhishek because I think you mentioned to me as well that you were really looking forward to traveling all over Europe and going to debate competitions. But while that is something that is very fun to do, now I think that after a year of online debating, most debaters seem to hold the opinion that, oh my God, we have so many tournaments that we can actually join now without having to spend so much money on traveling, without having to spend so much money on expensive registration fees. So for you as an individual debater, but also as a part of a debating society organizing tournaments, do you think that online tournaments are something that should be kept around and should be still a thing? Or do you just miss traveling to debating tournaments and that opportunity?
Yeah, well, if I was in Sara's position and somewhere in India right now, I would actually prefer to be able to debate internationally and with other debating societies everywhere. But being stuck here in Europe and not being able to travel anywhere around for the past year has been a little frustrating. And also, I have to admit that the experience of an actual debate, a real life debate, and an online debate is a lot different. Um, just just the fact that if this panel discussion was also taking place in real in person, it would have been in a different panel discussion altogether. There, I mean, both these formats, online or real life, have their drawbacks, have their points, but we have to realize whether these are the drawbacks of the format itself or just the transition between this pandemic world where we suddenly had to switch to an online medium. For me, I think not being able to experience make new friends or get these real life experiences that actually build you as a person is a drawback of the format itself. Something that Rico commented about, the universities not needing to, they don't need to compensate you for not having fun, but that is one of the biggest benefits and advantages of an actual university, a physical university where students can go, that they can actually grow as a person, they can build relationships, they can make friends. Making friends online is difficult. If you have friends already, you can meet them online, but making friends, so someone who would have just joined college in the first year during the pandemic would not have been able to make friends with the people around him in the class, or who would have had similar interest, or grow himself intellectually and as a person. So these activities, this walking on bridges, which I suppose is a uniquely Tatu thing. They are also very important in building your personality. And so, yeah, I prefer the real life version of debating it as well over the online one.
Yeah, I think we're getting to a very usual discussion over COVID things of whether we want to go back to normal or whether we want to move on to a new normal. And I think that ideas that are mentioned here, both regarding debating and education, incorporate both of those things. So Rahel, would you like to ask a few more questions about that?
I just want to get a quick what Abhishek has discussed about the financial aspect of these activities and the advantage that we are having through the online activities. I just want to have a quick overview from Maria, because I know in your part of the world the education mostly is funded by the government, or people are having free education. Maria, when the COVID hits, we have this huge pressure on our education industry as well as on schools and colleges regarding the deduction on fees and concession on fees, and to reduce the fees because they are not operating the physical campus of the schools and colleges. That did happen for some percentage or for some period of time. How did that becomes a challenge for a teacher as you, for the management of school and college? How did they cope up with the financials during that period?
All right. Luckily, I am in a kind of an organization that did not affect me much. This definitely, Rahil is very right that there's still a quite a prominent number of students and the parents and the families and the percentage of the students that would not take it seriously still, and they are in in the hope of getting it the new norm, the old normal, the previous normal. They think that it's going to come back, and then they are going to take it the normal life normally. um, Luckily we did not get affected, we the teachers of the organization, but the organization did a lot of struggle. They tried incorporating as many ways of for example, purchasing the different kinds of apps that would have access for longer hours. They actually, gave access to our. They made all the email system very well activated for all the students and for the teachers. They connected the teachers and the students very well through their Gmail, through their Google Classrooms, and then through Zoom, and you know they use different techniques, and then they kept both the teachers and the students in the loop, and educated them the ways through which they can be connected. Along with that, I would appreciate my organization especially, because I don't see many of the schools in Pakistan are doing that, but my organization tried their best to bring the extracurricular activities back to the this new normal. They are trying to do the theater as well through Zoom. They are preparing the students. The teachers are preparing actually the students, and the school is actually helping the teachers prepare the students. The sports and stuff like that, they all are bringing it back. They kept the parents in the loop as well. They are continuously updating the parents through their Facebook page and through their website as well. So the school is trying its best, and the school got affected for sure. But luckily, I'm in that kind of a school that I did not get affected to it. I'm sure there are many teachers who got affected, but luckily, fortunately, I was not the one.
Okay, thank you so much for that particular insight. 1 hour just being passed through, we didn't realize that we are talking for 1 hour now, and it's almost we are almost out of time for this panel discussion. So, moving on to the closing of this discussion, I would like the liberty to move to my Estonian, the whole panel one by one, and ask them regarding the World Speech Day. This activity, you becomes the part of this activity if the first time, or if you have been the part of these activities before. How do you feel about World Speech Day? What can be done better? How can we promote speeches and public speaking through on 15th March to these activities? Just a small piece of information before going to the panelists. For last 4 years, we are trying our best in Pakistan to get 15th March recognized as on national level as a World Speech Day, recognized by our highest house, our National Assembly, or maybe some other parliament. But fortunately, this year we have this confirmation from the Provincial Assembly. They have moved a white paper in Senate Assembly, and they are going to recognize 15th March as World Speech Day in this province only. We'll be sharing this information with the confirmation very soon. So moving on to my Estonian panel first. Rico, starting with you from you, how do you feel about World Speech Day activity? What can be done better? How can we make it a better activity? Very briefly.
Well, very briefly, I don't actually have much to say about this. I haven't thought about this topic a lot, but it seems that what we did right here, it worked. I think, honestly, I don't know what could be improved. I'm not that, I'm not that familiar with this topic, but I think this is working fine for now. And perhaps in the future, there could be some kind of combination of online and physical speech panels, hopefully, when we are able to do it.
Hybrid model, you mean? Okay. Sounds good. Abhishek, please.
Yeah, I mean, till about 5 days back, I had no idea that today was World Speech Day. So this activity is already helping in raising awareness, at least in me. Yeah, and it was fun to participate and talk to different people about this subject and get their perspectives on it. And activities like this will, encourage people to exchange their views and speak out in public. And so, yeah, thank you for inviting me for this, and it was great interacting it. And thank you.
Thank you so much for joining in. Firay.
I think this is a really good way to promote people to get more acquainted with speeches in general, but also our debate society has done this for a couple of years now, that this is part of a whole week of that we notice good argumentation around us, and it's part of a week of paying attention specifically of good arguments and also bad arguments made by politicians in our schools and so on. And we have pushed for schools to especially to notice these things and to try to pick out the really good arguments and also to learn from the really bad ones. And I think this is a really good way to promote it, to have international interaction. And I think this online version of interacting is the only way at the moment. So I think this should keep continuing, because traveling is expensive, and this is I think part of this affordability that this offers us, and communicating online this is here to stay. And I think let's make the most of it.
This is here to stay. Hopefully, we can move to the hybrid model and go back to normal very soon. Saskia, although you are a moderator, but still, I also want to know your thoughts regarding World Speech Day activities this year.
Yes, I am also heavily involved in the program that Estonian Debating Society is doing for the promotion of noticing the arguments and generally promoting critical thinking and logic skills, which is like a bit of a bigger take on what could be World Speech Day. And I would also like to say on my behalf already, thank you everybody for contributing so productively to this discussion. And I think we're setting a good example of what is like proper speeching in a sense, and how it's supposed to be done. Because I think that from everything that I've heard today, there has been so much to learn.
Thank you, Saskia. Sara, your thoughts?
It was definitely very interesting to have perspectives from both ends of the spectrum, considering Estonia is a developed country and we are a developing country. Plus, we had perspectives from all age groups, so it was very interesting to hear that. I'm really looking forward to more such activities in the future, and especially during the pandemic, if it lasts, these online activities can really help us.
Thank you, Hafsa. Thank you so much, Sara. Hafsa, your thoughts, please, on World Speech Day activities.
I totally have to agree with what Sara said. I think this pandemic brought out the best in us. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. So this pandemic brought the best in us in many ways. For example, we in our debating society, we would have never thought I leading the English debating circuit, and I had so many plans, and those were just, there was a slap in the face nature slapped in our face. But what happened was that we realized other things that we could have done. All this time, we started transgender rights, women rights. We started dialogue, peace dialogues with India, with other countries, and that was something. These activities, again, as Sara said, talking to people from all over the world is something that we would not have realized if the pandemic had not happened, right? So I really hope that we keep conducting these activities and we keep talking to people from all over the world. And I really hope that we can prove Sheikh wrong, where he said that it's difficult making friends online. I hope we can make very good friends after this.
Okay, sounds great. All right, Maya.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I seriously wish and hope that not only this kind of panel discussion or the program should not be done only on the World Speech Day, but quite regularly as well. Through this same platform, we can do it so that we can meet new people, we can learn things, we can pass on our knowledge as well, and we can be on the receiving end as well. So enjoyed a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Maria. So from my end, I thank all the panelists from Pakistan and from Estonia as well. It was a thorough honor and privilege to host you all and moderate this panel discussion. Lots of information new for me as well. Sitting in this part of the world, we may have different assumptions from Europe, from Estonia, from other countries. But when we discuss, we see that even though we are distance apart, we are miles apart, we have some similar problems, we have some similar challenges that we are coping up, especially during this pandemic. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking out your time and joining this panel discussion. Saskia.
Thank you so much from my side as well. I had a great discussion, first of all, preparing for this with Rahel and discussing all of these topics and then hearing all of your thoughts on it. I'm very grateful that I could share this opportunity. And yeah, happy World Speech Day to everyone.
Happy World Speech Day to everyone. Thank you. Take care. Signing off.